Breaking one tackle on the left, going to the right. How did he break through that? Zach Boyer got through 3 tacklers. He has nothing but country roads ahead of him. Zach Boyer into the end zone for a touchdown. Another would-be broken play for St. Genevieve. Another huge touchdown for the Dragons. And that is what they needed at the right time.
Tonight we'll recount the week that was in high school football.
Reed rolling out to his right, looking to throw, steps up, fires, deep downfield, pass is caught! Sibby makes the catch, spins off a tackler at the 45, still going inside the 40, 30, 20, 10, touchdown North County! Are you kidding me?
And we'll give you a sneak peek at the games coming up this weekend.
A late pitch, Cunningham on a tailback pass. He's throwing into the end zone. He's got a man open. Touchdown Farmington! Touchdown Farmington! The Knights are on top. The Knights are on top. Touchdown Farmington on the halfback pass.
Plus, we'll hear from the coaches and players.
I can't say enough about these kids. They came out focused. They came out fired up.
The kid, he has the most heart I've ever seen in my life. He puts in time on and off the field.
This is the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable.
He's going to throw it deep, and it is caught! It is caught by St. Pius! Here they go!
That was from an in-person interview when we did it here.
Lancers!
It's from one of the ones we did here.
Play of the game! What just happened?
Brought to you by Kohl's Tractor and Equipment on Highway 32
So that
in
was
Farmington.
the kid is from
Home
one of the
LS
interviews we did
Tractor.
here.
Lead the herd. Don't just follow. Broadcasting live from Applebee's in Farmington, along with the rest of the regional radio sports team. Here are your hosts, Griffin Weinberg and Nathan Gertz.
That is our cue. So we say hello to you and welcome you to our little corner booth. Chad Speaker and Garrett Davenport alongside us. Griff right across the table from me as we're 2 weeks into the high school football season. A lot of excitement from week 2, a lot of spectacular individual performances, a couple of really good games, and a lot of winning. Area teams able to either get to 2-0 on the season or bounce back in a big way from week 1 defeats. If I did the math right, it's only 3 teams that fell to 0-2 out of our listening area here to start the season. So a lot of success to begin the year. And as we go around the table to talk about initial impressions off of week 2, Griff, for me, I thought the thing that stood out is we're kind of getting to know early on who some of the great players in our area are going to be. Bryce Giesler a year ago was excellent for Valley Catholic, and he got his opportunity to really step into the spotlight here this week off a solid week 1 performance. Lucas Barr is turning into an unstoppable force for the Herculaneum Black Cats. We'll talk about what he did. Cason McLean is somebody who emerged as an every down kind of ball carrier for the Farmington Knights last year, and he obviously was a huge, huge part of them winning a game with authority against Potosi that a year ago came down to the final play. I think we have an established idea of who the great players are in this area, and that is a lot of fun because that means they're experienced, they're really good, they're only getting better, and thus they could potentially produce something really special before the year is done.
Yeah, Austin Romaine up at Hillsboro. He's got a Division I offer to Kansas State. Well, not an offer. He's committed to go to Kansas State. You talk about him. Another guy on Valley, too. We'll have a little more on Tim Okenfoos, but their senior defensive end disruptor, running back. He's a force out there, you know. The defensive guys, they don't get all of the glory, you know, some of the offensive numbers, but he's pretty great. You got a guy over in St. Genevieve, Caden Fly, too. It's really cool. It's cool that there's a lot of, these incredibly talented players. And then didn't even mention the kid over at North County as well, the running back, who's just lit this place on fire, Job Smith.
Yeah, he has been fantastic. Garrett, impressions for you from week 2?
I think really it's just the growth of some of these programs. We talked about a lot of teams going 2-0 for the first time in a long time. We'll talk about Herculaneum here in a minute. We'll also talk about a little bit of Crystal City going 2-0 for the first time in a long time. But even teams that have a loss on the season, some growth from those programs as well, like Fredericktown, like DeSoto, got a big win in week 1. Just a lot of growth, a lot of, building blocks being put in place for each of these programs, and seeing them build each week has been fun.
Thought one of the other little themes, only 2 teams failed to score at least 35 points and still won. One of them was Herculaneum. So if you're going to win, it sounds like you're going to need to put up a lot of offense. Chad, we will get a chance to really dive into your game with the guys that were involved, as the Farmington Knights are going to be our guests this evening. But I'd imagine the big impression is the put away that the Knights showed on Friday night.
14-6 at half, and Potosi gets the ball to start the second half. They changed strategies completely, drive down the field, and Farmington just wore them out. I mean, it was you could just see it. Farmington just had more in the tank at the end of that one and pulled away. I liked seeing I like seeing the resurgent programs. I mean, it's good seeing what Herculaneum's doing to see if maybe they can go to 3-0. Grandview, we already had kind of witnessed the rebirth of that program at the varsity level. But to me, like, how fun is it to be a fan of football in St. Genevieve right now? Like, I don't even care which team. I mean, you add up the points last week. What, 131 points those two teams scored, I think, if you combine them last week or something like that, just to go out on a Friday night and watch either one of those ball clubs. Think if they only had one school there, how good that team would be right now.
Yeah, it's turned into busy Friday nights over in the historic French Village, and for good reason. There might be two of the best teams in the state in Class 3, not just a perennial powerhouse. Speaking of, let's dive into our broadcast games, and let's talk about Valley Catholic, who, after they beat a Class 6 school for the first time ever, they went and took on a Class 5 team, or Class 4 team, that only 2 years ago won a district title, won a conference championship, won 10 games, and they didn't blink. A 48-20 win over the Festus Tigers in our J98 game of the week Friday night. Valley Catholic got the opening kickoff and wasted little time showing off their star running back.
Valley Catholic, Chase Fowler clapping, now checking. Once again, handed it off to Giesler. He's up the middle with a block. He's got nothing but country roads ahead of him across the 10-5. Touchdown, Valley Catholic. One touch, one score for Bryce Giesler with 11 minutes and 16 seconds to go in this first quarter. The Warriors strike first.
Over 200 yards on the night and a pair of touchdowns for the All-State running back Giesler after a 1,700-yard year, 26 touchdowns as a junior. Griff, I had a conversation with somebody who was watching that Festus game the other day, and they brought up the idea that I thought was kind of interesting. Potentially, it didn't matter what the game plan was coming in for Valley Catholic. They probably were able to scrap it pretty quickly because they ran the ball so effectively. I do still wonder, though, coming off a week one, they were very, very adamant about trying to get their offense opened up, throwing it. Chase Fowler was in the gun, slinging it a lot. He had over 200 yards and 3 touchdown passes within the first 7 attempts against Seckman. You kind of wonder, was this the week to balance that out and run it? I think regardless of game plan or not, though, obviously they showed us they're going to be just as much of a threat on the ground as they are through the air.
Yeah, that's what Judd Nagar, head coach over at Valley, he wanted to do. He wanted to balance out the offense. Ideally, I don't think he wants Bryce Giesler to run the ball, 20 times a game. He had 19 carries last game, but, he wants to keep him around 15 or so, and he wants to be able to throw when he needs to. But Chase Fowler's last pass attempt was in the second quarter. It was in the second quarter in a long 12-play scoring drive that they had. He told me after the game, he said, if we don't need to throw the ball, then why should we? And they didn't for the entire rest of the game. So they let the guys run it, and Chase Fowler, he was fine enough with what he was able to do, 7 of 10 throwing, 93 yards and a score. And, why throw it when you have guys like Giesler and Okenfoos, and the list goes on and on that we'll hear from.
Yeah, emphasis on the plural there of guys, because it was a multiple group effort from Valley Catholic that we'll talk more in a bit. However, that's just solid Valley did on their opening drive and decided to match it with an opening score of their own.
One tight end on the left as well, takes the snap, looks to throw left side. He's got a man, Will Reese, and it's caught. Will Reese broke a tackle. He's across the 20. 10-5, touchdown, Festus. Cunningham to Reese with 9 minutes and 28 seconds remaining in the first quarter. The Tigers strike back.
A good answer for Festus. Will Reese would ultimately catch another pass, finished with 101 yards receiving, but the Valley Catholic defense stepped up after that, after giving up that opening drive touchdown. No points scored by Festus again until the fourth quarter. The Warriors offense, meanwhile, kept its foot on the pedal.
Fallard's in the shotgun. Giesler on the right hip. He'll hand it off to the running back who just scored long. Now he's got a first down up the middle of the field, cutting back, breaks a tackle, stiff arm into Festus territory across the 30, 20, still on his feet at the far sideline and taken down out of bounds inside the 5. Bryce Giesler, 2 touches, then he takes this one for about 65 yards. First and goal, that is, from the Festus 5-yard line. Fowler takes the shotgun snap. QB draw up the middle, churning his legs, and he's across the goal line for a touchdown. For the second consecutive drive, Valley takes 2 plays to score, and now it's the Warriors up 13-7 with 9 minutes and 10 seconds to go in this first quarter.
We mentioned last week on the show, Valley Catholic closed their game against Sequin with a run of 34 unanswered points. In this one, they score 35 unanswered to take a commanding lead and never look back. And adding on to that scoring total, the Applebee's of Farmington player of the game.
Ball at the Festus 21. Giesler takes the handoff again, breaks one tackle, running up the middle. That's Okenfoos, rather. Now he breaks a tackle, and he'll get across the goal line for a Valley Catholic touchdown. Timmy Okenfoos, 21 yards for pay dirt, and it's 34-7 Valley Catholic with 2 minutes and 5 seconds to go in this third quarter.
6 carries for 65 yards and that score for Okenfoos, but his real impact was on defense. 4 sacks, finished with at least 5 tackles for loss. It was probably closer to 7 to 8, and he told regional radio after the win that his coaches put him in the right position.
Yeah, so I just do what the coaches tell me and try to do it to the best of my ability I can, and it takes all 11 on the defensive side of the ball to play good defense. So it's fun. I can see adrenaline pumping, and it's just fun to run the ball.
Griffin, we talked so much about the Valley offense, but the defense has been elite when they've been at their best consistently. And I came into the season looking at the numbers and saying, look at the guys back, the production they had, and I said, okay, they're going to be really good defensively, but man, it'd be nice if somebody stepped into the void of Mike Okenfoos, who was an all-state player a year ago. 26 tackles for loss, team-high 13 sacks, impact player off the edge, rushing the passer and just getting in the backfield. From Mikey, now you have Timmy, who's coming off the edge and appears to be a force of nature in his own right.
Yeah, he did whatever he wanted to do defensively. 4 sacks, had in another 6 tackles for loss. He was scary. And Judd, he says that he plays sort of a disruptor position. He's just kind of going out and he disrupts. He makes things hard. He's so quick off the ball defensively. Really one of the better players here in this whole area, I think, on the defensive end of things. And I was glad I was able to get to see it with my own eyes, and Coach Nagar was able to give him a little bit of praise there. The defense is just scary for Valley. I mean, you look at what they did to Armand Branch. He had, I think, 2 targets. Branch had 1 catch that went for 16 yards, and that first catch that he had was the first offensive play for Festus out of the second half. So, I mean, that had to be designed to get him involved. I've head into an offense that has the ability to score 60, 70 yards out on any given play, with a defense that can stop anyone at any given point. This is a very strong Valley team, one that, kind of lives up to some of those past state championship teams I think they've had.
It's only been 2 games, but guys like Noah Elbert, Brandon Giesler, Carson Tucker, who's made the move from linebacker to cornerback and hasn't missed a beat, they look like they're going to be the part. And Timmy Okenfoos, who I thought it was great when Judd Nagar, you asked him afterwards, when did you know he'd be an impact player? And they said when he ran over everyone in practice, and then no one wanted to tackle him the rest of the summer. That's when you knew. And speaking of Judd Nagar, the Valley head coach, afterwards talked about the contributions that he got from everyone on the offensive side of the ball.
Sam, showed off again that if it's anywhere near him, he's going to catch it. I mean, he made 2 amazing one-handed catches. He's up to 4 one-handed catches in 2 games. I think that might be a record. And they're not. They weren't ones that he was doing it to show off. He could only get one hand of the ball. He's a freak, and we've got some weapons in the pass game, and Chase is certainly a weapon throwing the football. But I think we showed tonight that we've got multiple weapons running the football, whether it's Bryce or Chase or Grant or Alex or Timmy. We felt coming into the year we had 5 legitimate ball carriers, and I think we proved it.
Yeah, Sam Drury, I talked a little bit about it last week, had a great one-handed catch for a touchdown against Sequin. He was covered up entirely. He had a great one-handed catch on a 2-point conversion late in that game as well, and obviously he kept it rolling at Festus. You've clearly got the guy to replace Aiden Heberly as your top receiver. You're probably deeper this year with Rylan Fowler and Grant Fowler getting better. Brandon Giesler's not slowing down. It looks like he'll have some help with both Okenfoos and Alex Viox running the ball. This is the fun thing for Valley Catholic's coaches the next couple weeks. They are doing the thing that all the opposing coaches will do, which is probably ask themselves, what's the weakness? Where do we have to get better?
We're singing a lot of praise on Valley Catholic, and, I think it's justified, especially with what Judd Nagar just said, how they have 5 guys that are able to run the ball. Sam Drury will catch apparently anything that's within his radius. Even, if it's a throw that shouldn't be caught, he'll adjust his body and he'll make the catch. So we'll talk about it. We're going to keep continuing to talk about them because the coaches are going to talk about them as well. This is just 2 weeks in, 2 really difficult games, and 2 very big wins for this Valley Catholic team that already has 16 state titles in their history. And 2 weeks in, but this is a really good team.
They have definitely solidified their status as a team to watch out for once we get to the postseason. Meanwhile, we'll talk a lot more about Festus later because they are one of the few 0-2 teams in our area, but they're the one that's gone through the toughest schedule so far. No ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Doesn't get much easier either.
No, and we will break down what is ahead of that team coming up a little later on. We want to take a timeout, though. We'll be back. We'll come back and talk about the most exciting game from this weekend and a gutsy effort on the road from a Herculaneum Black Cats team to start the season faster than they have in over a decade. That's coming up on the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable, live from Applebee's in Farmington on J98.
Parkland Health Mart Pharmacy.
Welcome back. The Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98, live from Applebee's in Farmington. Nathan Gertz, Griffin Weinberg, Garrett Davenport, and Chad Speaker with you. Let's talk about a great game that we had on AM 1400 KGF for you Friday night. As Herculaneum traveled to Black Cat Valley and ended up defeating Fredericktown in a slugfest 22-14. However, it was Fredericktown that struck first blood. Their special teams created a safety off a muffed punt, and junior quarterback Carter Cheney would end up using the truck stick to power in for a Fredericktown rushing touchdown.
3 receivers to the left in a jumbo package. Cheney steps up in the pocket, and he's going to take off with it, going for the end zone, and he trucks a man into the end zone for a Fredericktown touchdown. Carter Cheney lowering the helmet, laying the hit stick, and getting 6 for the Fredericktown Black Cats. Wow, what a run. 10-yard scamper from Carter Cheney, and now Fredericktown leads Herculaneum 8-0.
Obviously, Carter Cheney continuing to grow in the role of signal caller, but I think the story of the first half, at least, Garrett, is how Herculaneum struggled to move the football. And even when they were driving before halftime and got to the red zone, Jackson Deering throws a pick that luckily didn't turn into a pick six. The turf monster got a Fredericktown defender who intercepted the pass, and he stumbled at the 9, meaning that Fredericktown went to halftime leading 8-0, 5 turnovers in total for the road team in this one. Fredericktown's defense is going to be a salty bunch this year.
Oh, especially that front line for Fredericktown. I mean, it just looked like Herculaneum just couldn't move the ball. And, of course, a lot of unforced turnovers for the other Black Cats, the visiting Black Cats, that is. But just that Fredericktown defense, they were making life difficult. It was hard to find gaps, just trying to go through fine lanes. It wasn't happening. That Fredericktown defense making stops everywhere. They were playing great in the secondary as well. Of course, eventually Herculaneum got there. They were able to make some connections, but running the football, very difficult for Herculaneum against Fredericktown.
The offense did pick up for both teams in the second half, though. Herculaneum would score on their first possession of the third quarter.
Deering in the pistol, 2 to the left, 2 to the right, going from left to right. Here's the snap. Deering, 3-step drop, looking over the middle for Barr down the sideline, and that's going to be picked up by Barr. He's at the 20, going to cut inside. He's still up on his feet, and he reaches out to the end zone. Touchdown, Herculaneum. What a play from Lucas Barr. Down the sideline, cuts it up the field. 42-yard pitch and catch from here to Deering. Now it's 8-6.
Fredericktown responded right back, though, with a huge run from their starting running back, Garrett Marlar.
Here's the snap, hand off to Marlar. Marlar up the gut. He's got some room, cuts inside, and he is going to get into the end zone for a Fredericktown. A touchdown, 32-yard run up the gut for Garrett Marlar. Fredericktown leads Herculaneum, 6:57 left to go in the third quarter.
That 14-6 margin would stand going into the fourth. And a key sequence in the fourth quarter in this one in terms of how it turned. Herculaneum puts a good drive together. Senior quarterback Jackson Deering using his legs gets them down to the red zone. But on 4th and goal on the 1-yard line, Fredericktown's defense rose up one more time. They got a stop, kept Deering out of the end zone. The problem, Fredericktown's offense didn't gain a first down after the goal line stand. They had to punt basically from their own end zone. And their starting quarterback, Cheney, he's also an all-state punter. Terrific guy booting the football. And before that fourth down play, he had to come off the field with an apparent injury that would knock him out for the rest of the night. So the ensuing punt from his backup goes only 25 yards. Herculaneum goes to work at the Fredericktown 26 and immediately ties the game up.
Got 3 to the right, 1 to the left. Deering rolling out to his right. Pressure coming. Going to throw it up for Barr. The ball is caught by Barr. Reaches out for the end zone. Touchdown, Black Cats. What a throw from Deering. Barr the reception. And Herky 2 points away from tying this ball game up. 2-point conversion. Deering takes the snap, rolling out to his right. Pump fakes. Going to throw it over to Maloney. And he's in for the 2-point conversion. We're tied at 14.
With less than 2 minutes to go, Herculaneum gets the ball back, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But Carter Cheney exiting this game, it's not just that particular punt. It also is something that at that moment, Fredericktown, on a night when it was already hard to move the football, it made it harder.
Yeah, it was a lot harder for Fredericktown to move it. Of course, they still got a great running back in Garrett Marlar, but something we didn't talk about is this Herculaneum defense. Also very good. Last week, Windsor struggled to score against them, so they were also playing their roles. Got a 3rd and long coming up. They just could not convert, couldn't move the football without a guy like Carter Cheney. Just the threat of him throwing the football, also tucking it and running it, creates a different dynamic for this Fredericktown offense. Having him gone are really, really hurting Herculaneum. They were able to capitalize.
And like we said, they stood up in the biggest spot of the game with less than 2 minutes to go, getting the ball back and getting it with a short field. Still, though, they face 3rd and 16. What happens in basketball? Coach either draws up a play or the point guard does this, waves his hand. ISO, give it to your best guy. And on 3rd and 16, Deering throw it up to Herculaneum's best guy for the play of the game.
Pistol formation for Herculaneum. 1:20 left to go here in this game. Deering takes the snap, looking for Barr. He's going to throw it in double coverage. He's got a step. Barr going up, but it is caught. It is caught by Lucas Barr. Going down the sideline. He's in the end zone for a touchdown. Herculaneum takes the lead here in the fourth quarter.
Incredible stuff there from Herky. Fredericktown got one more shot to tie the game up, but senior Logan Petrie reads the eyes of the backup quarterback and seals the win for Herky.
3-step drop, pressure coming, gets away, rolling out to his right, and he's going to release it down the sideline, and it's intercepted! Intercepted by Herculaneum! Logan Petrie steps up into the passing lane, gets a much-needed turnover for the Black Cats. 58 seconds, and that might do it in the Battle of the Black Cats.
Had a chance to talk a little bit about the defense, and they obviously stepped up there at the end. But, man, Garrett, at this point, the story of the Herculaneum season, even though Jackson Deering also ended up being our Applebee's Farmington player of the game, the story of the season in total now is Lucas Barr. 7 touchdown catches across these first 2 games. He scored a rushing TD as well. You kind of wondered, after DJ Johnson got hot and played so well for Herky at the end of last year, and the team started winning as well, you were kind of thinking, can they find somebody to be that maybe for a whole year? I think they've clearly found that guy.
Yeah, they found that guy in Lucas Barr. 8 total touchdowns, like you said. If you go onto the STL Today database, he's tied for first with Cole Rubel with the most touchdowns in the entire area. I mean, he has been phenomenal, and I talk about it all the time, but it's like, hey, he's down there somewhere. Just throw him the football. The thing about that play, also, you didn't hear it in the cut, it was a defensive pass interference as well. So he was tangled up with 2 defenders, still able to catch the ball and run it in for a touchdown. I mean, Lucas Barr is a special guy. Of course, you got a guy in Jackson Deering throwing him the football, and Jackson was obviously really good as well. And his total stats were about 141 rushing yards, about 200 passing yards, most of that going to Lucas. But that tandem between Jackson Deering and Lucas Barr, they are so good. I think it's probably one of the best combination in Class 3 right now, just because they find each other all the time, and it's really good to see.
I think he was up over 100 yards receiving in this one. That builds on 224, I think it was, in the Week 1 win over Windsor. It's not just that they're throwing him touchdowns. He's making plays all over the place offensively. He has been phenomenal. But as you said, this one largely was thanks to Jackson Deering making plays with his arm and his legs. And Herky head coach Blaine Boss, after the win, says his senior QB really willed the team to victory.
He's just a battler. That's all there is to it. He's a bulldog. He refuses to lose, and that's the guy you want out there. You know, he just loves it. He loves this sport, and he gives you everything he has every single day. And you know, can't thank him enough for that. And super proud of him.
And I just want to go back to the fact that Jackson Deering did struggle in that first half, and being that senior leader, taking this team on his back and realizing that he had to change the way he played to will this team to victory. It was good to see from him as well, just the growth from him from his junior year all the way to senior. Didn't even start at quarterback his junior year to now leading this team to big-time victories on the road, coming back. It's quite the growth for Jackson Deering.
The bottom line is they're different teams, but the team that finished so strong in 2021, something about that momentum is carried over, be it guys like Lucas Barr growing in their roles, Jackson Deering obviously growing at quarterback. The defense has played well now across the first 2 games. Whatever Blaine Boss wanted to do to kind of flip the switch after some lethargic years, it wasn't that long ago. It seems crazy. It wasn't that long ago. Herculaneum ousted Valley Catholic atop the I-55 conference. They won that league once upon a time. After some lethargic years, they're kicking it into gear in all facets right now.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it before the show, looking over some stats. The first time that Herculaneum can go 3-0. Of course, they have Jefferson coming up this Friday, but the first time they can go 3-0 since 2004. It's been a very long time, and this is a realistic team that can go 3-0. That's going to be a really good game against Jefferson coming up on Friday. We're not going to be covering it, but still, it's going to be a good one.
Won a number of really interesting conference openers for a couple of different teams. A great win for Herculaneum, and I think we did say it the first time since 2011 that they're 2-0. We'll see if they can build on it with Jefferson. Fredericktown, meanwhile, at 1-1 gets Valley Catholic. We'll talk about all of the games coming up in Week 3 a little later on in the show. And we've got a breakdown for you. The Farmington Knights win over Potosi coming up in just a bit. Head coach Eric Krupe and a few of the players kind enough to join us. They'll talk all about the win over Potosi and what's coming up for them with Jackson. But for right now, we need to take a timeout. We'll be back, and we'll give you the full Week 2 scoreboard for the games in our area when the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable continues live from Applebee's in Farmington on J98.
Another 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Robin Nagel.
Another
with
3, yes,
Serenity
please.
Hospice Care in Park
Got it.
Hills. At Serenity, we believe that end-of-life care is not about giving up. It's about living the best life possible with the time you have left. Choosing hospice sooner means more comfort and support for your loved one. Our comprehensive team provides all the necessary support for our patients to remain where they live in the presence of family and friends, providing peace of mind when it matters most. Visit serenityhc.org for more information.
Now is the time to get started for fall.
Colts Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable continues on J98. I'm Nathan, Griffin, Garrett, and Chad alongside as we are recapping week 2 of the season. We've already told you about the wins for Valley Catholic over Festus and Herculaneum over Fredericktown. We've got an in-depth breakdown of Farmington's win over Potosi coming up in just a bit. But let's check the rest of the week 2 scoreboard for you. One of the teams that bounced back from week 1 defeat, the Windsor Owls. They knocked off the Perryville Pirates 28-7. Windsor head coach Jeff Funston says the Owls came ready to play.
I tell you, last week I think we came out flat, and we just never recovered from start. And, you know, give Herky credit; they came out, they were flying high, and we just didn't match their intensity. This week we came out with a purpose to kind of defend our home turf a little bit. So as soon as we hit the door, man, we were ready to play tonight.
A team that got to 2-0, Hillsboro. They knock off Cape Central 47-7. Head coach Bill Saharsky says the Hawks defense played hard.
We were able to get some key turnovers early in the ball game, and that gave us some short fields, and we were able to take advantage of that. Offensively, our kids, we did a good job spreading the ball around. I don't have any stats in front of me, but I know we had a lot of different kids with a lot of different touches in the game, and that was good. Our usual tube in the backfield with Austin and Jackson, they both ran really well, and we did a really good job throwing the ball tonight. So just really proud of the effort.
Nice bounce back for Jefferson R7. They beat Cuba 35-8. It's Matt Atley's first win as head coach of the Blue Jays.
You know, I know last week I felt like our kids knew that they didn't put their best foot forward, and this week they came out and they had a great week of practice and they really responded. So it was really good to see that and see them compete at a high level.
Another team that got to 2-0, Grandview, although after a big lead early, they hold on to beat Bayless 32-30. Head coach Jason Kimanow says the Eagles had to hang in for the win.
It wasn't pretty, that's for sure, but, we battled through some adversity, and I'm proud of the fact that we were able to do that. I think we got more touches to more guys. I think last week, we took advantage of some looks we were given, but that led to us kind of leaning on, one guy more than another, and that happens from time to time. But I thought tonight we did a pretty good job of balancing out our touches and making sure we were utilizing everybody to the best of their ability.
Talked about the Jefferson Blue Jays and the Windsor Owls, but a couple of teams bounced back from a week 1 defeat to get to 1-1. One of those, Seckman defeating University City 69-6. Head coach Nick Bayer says the Jaguars got back on track this week.
Yeah, we just got back to, doing what we do, running the football, leading on teams, and leaving no doubt that we are a good football team. So it was good to have some success at what we do and get a lot of guys on the field tonight.
Another team bouncing back from the week 1 loss, St. Pius. They blanked DeBerg 47-0. Head coach Dan Oliver says the Lancers did just that, bounced back.
Last week we had several great drives, and then, tragedy strikes and we fumble, and then tonight we finished them off, and I think we fumbled once maybe tonight, and that really helped us out a lot, the ball control and take care of things, and playing, great defense.
Talked about Valley Catholic getting another win. Their first year in the MAFC White Division is shaping up to be a barn burner because one of their new conference mates gets to 2-0 as Central defeats Caruthersville handily 58-21. Rebels head coach Corey Schweiss says his team proved dangerous in a variety of ways.
Job had a punt return for a touchdown. I think he had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown as well. So he scored 3 different ways. Casey Murphy picked one off. I think our first offensive play in the third quarter and took it inside the 5 and scored. And then, I think we ended up getting a safety on the next possession and got the ball back and scored real quick again. We had a lot of guys play pretty well. Ty Schweiss forced a couple fumbles. Hakeem Wagner recovered one of those and returned it for a touchdown. We had 2 defensive touchdowns. We had a safety and we had a punt return for a touchdown. So,
as if it wasn't enough that you got to deal with Central if you're Valley. Your crosstown rival is now a conference rival, and St. Genevieve is breaking scoreboards week to week. They knock off Afton 83-36, and head coach Jay Pope says it was a team effort.
There was a lot of guys that found the end zone. We put up 70 in the first half, and we were able to get some younger guys in the second half, and they continued to have some success. And it was really, like I said, a team effort. I think 5 or 6 different guys were able to score for us.
Meanwhile, over in Valley's old stomping grounds, the I-55 Conference, keep your eye on St. Vincent. They beat Scott City, a perennial playoff rival, 36-22. Head coach Tim Schumer says the Indians played well on both sides of the ball.
I felt like offensively and defensively we really played well. Offensively, we were able to put some points on the board, and defensively, we got some key stops, especially late in the game to kind of make sure to kind of fend off their comeback. But one thing, special teams kind of bit us here. We gave them some opportunities late where I think we could have been able to shut the door on them. So, but overall, our offensive defense really played well tonight.
Also joining the ranks of 2-0, Crystal City. First time in a long time for them to do that. They double up Louisiana 40-20. Fox Warriors couldn't bounce back from a week 1 win. They fall at Lafayette Wildwood 42-20, and we had 3 teams go to 0-2 in the area. We've talked about Perryville and Festus. Northwest was the other as they fell to Parkway South 32-14. But like I said, that means only 5 teams from the regional radio listening area lost. So there are plenty of options for you to choose when it comes to big winners here this week. And I will continue to stick with the St. Vincent Indians to get things started. You could probably get the sense, and I asked Tim Schumer about it during our conversation after the game, did you have to temper everybody's expectations after the Marceline win? And he said, yeah, a little bit. But clearly they responded enough because, like he said, if they don't give up a few scores here or there, make a few plays at the end, they might have won this one by even more. And like I said, considering Scott City's in your district, you will likely have to go through them in the postseason again, potentially. It's just continuing an excellent start to the season for this St. Vincent team.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see how St. Vincent follows up the 2-0 start. We'll break down a little bit of the game coming up this Friday. We'll have it on J98. But what a way this is to start for the St. Vincent Indians, breaking into the top 10 in the Class 1 rankings there as well. So really good stuff. My big winner, it's kind of hard for me to choose, but I'm going to go with Grandview. Them another one of those 2-0 teams here, and I got a chance to, talk with some of the guys during the training camp, and Jason Kimenow, first-year head coach for this team, first time he's been a head coach of any team before. He said, this isn't, a rebuild just because Dave Dallas is gone and, most of that senior class was gone that, experienced 0 wins. Then they go up to a 7-4 season. They come back and he said, you know what, we're going to retool on the fly and we're going to build upon the foundation that was there. You start off 2-0. Yeah, things got a little close there with Bayless at the end of the game, but you hang on for the win. So congrats to the Eagles up there for starting off 2-0.
And yeah, with all that said about, we won't rebuild, the perception is going to be pretty obviously there were so many seniors that contributed to the 7 wins last year. The fact that guys, whether it's Cameron Hagan, who's now a starter as opposed to being the second running back they used a lot last year, or Nash Moore and Austin Blankenship, who are both being used more on offense, they're ahead of schedule, I think.
They're a young team. They only have 3 seniors on this year's team, so they're getting a lot of contributions from some of those kids who may not have had the varsity experience, that a lot of those seniors had from last year. So it is really impressive, what they've done so far. So hats off to Grandview.
Chad, I think you had some records, maybe, or at least a small bit of history with your big winner.
I was going to talk Herky, but then I thought Garrett probably is wanting to leave. Why don't I go with the MAFC White
in general
as the winner, right? I mean, because you've got Valley Central and St. Genevieve all just coming out of the gates playing sensational football, and the number that we looked at, and the Misha records, I will admit, are not like all inclusive. They only use what programs the schools send to them. But the 70 points the St. Genevieve laid in the first half in their ball game is tied for 8th in state history in terms of the records that Misha has been able to compile. So, you're doing something there that just hasn't been done very often before.
Not just the 2-0 teams, 1-1 in Potosi, who I think is a lot better than how it ended on Friday. Yeah. And hey, Fredericktown has only given up 28 points through the first 2 games. Good luck in conference play to all of those teams. It's going to be a war. Garrett, who's your big winner?
Well, I'm not going to go Herculaneum.
Oh, okay. All right.
We talked enough about Herculaneum. I think we can give them a little bit of a break. Of course, a great start for them. I actually got 2, and 2 I'm going to talk about really quickly. Windsor, of course, beating Perryville 28-7. I think this Windsor team is a lot better than what they showed in week 1. I think they got 2 just studs with Jordan Foster and AJ Patrick. Both those guys had a great game against Perryville. Of course, they're going to take this Owls team as far as they can go. Those 2 guys, watch out from there, are some special players. Got to see them in our training camp reports. They're good. They're really good. Another team that I want to touch on is Central, starting off 2-0. I think starting off the season kind of had a little bit of question marks going in because, of course, you lose Jet Bridges, you lose Deshaun Welch. You have Joe Bryant coming back, Kason Murphy playing well for them. I think, that was a little of a question mark for me coming into the season, but a big win against Caruthersville, big win against Poplar Bluff. This is still a great team. Central reloaded.
Yeah, you feel like would there be an adjustment period without Jet Bridges, Deshaun Welch? Great guys, both sides of the ball. Grant Mannion, so many excellent players, and so far been smooth sailing. We'll see how it goes with conference play.
There's probably nobody that has lost more, but yet is kind of right where they have been.
You can kind of hear it in Corey Schweiss's voice when he's doing interviews with us after the games. He's saying to himself, I got to temper expectations still because there is so much new production, and yet it has started extremely well with a pair of very nice road victories for them. A really nice week. Like I said, 16-5, I think, is the record for our area teams this week. Mostly good success and a lot of big winners to celebrate from week 2. One of them, the Farmington Knights, a very nice win for them in their home opener. And we're going to take a timeout. We'll come back. Head coach Eric Krupe and a couple of his players are joining us as our guests tonight here on the roundtable. They're going to talk about the win over Potosi, break it down a little more in depth, and they will look ahead to the start of conference play and Jackson, the defending SEMO North champs. So stick around. There's plenty of excellent stuff to come live from Applebee's in Farmington when the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable continues next on J98.
We're back on the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable at Applebee's in Farmington, and we welcome in the Farmington Knights joining us during this segment. And Coach Eric Krupe just giving us actually good news about the program. How are your other teams doing right now,
Good.
Coach?
So right now, I should say right now, freshmen won earlier, 50-0, and currently our JV squad is up 21-0 just before half.
Yes, and a lot of your young guys are playing at the varsity level too, so you must have a really good depth in your younger ranks.
Yeah, so Tatum Tinsley is a freshman quarterback, but he's actually playing JV. Colby Larkins is a freshman fullback for us, but he's playing JV as well. So you've got some freshmen intermingled with the JV squad right now.
I liked how the players right beside you were fired up when we told them about that too. I mean, you guys know the type of effort the young guys put in. You had to go through it all as well. So usually during varsity play, you're on the field. A lot of those younger players are rooting for you, but do you guys enjoy kind of rooting for the young guys too?
Oh, yes. We're looking forward to go out there after film every day.
That's good.
Every Monday.
Gabe Giuliani joining us, Wyatt Skaggs, and also Josh Wyatt joining us. And we'll hear from Casey McLean, our athlete of the week, here in just a little bit. But, Coach, Potosi, a team that you guys were able to defeat 50-18, and they've been tough to get by the last few years. They play a good, tough brand of football. You beat them by one score the last couple of years, but you were able to pull away this year. It seemed like you wore them out a little bit.
Yeah, we pride ourselves in physicality up front, and I thought we won that battle on Friday night. And it starts up front with our offensive and defensive lines, and they did a great job. And we're able to put our skill position players in position to be successful, and they were. But we knew we were going to get Potosi's best shot. That's a team. They're tough. They're hard-nosed. They returned a starting quarterback who's pretty darn good, and he's able to put the ball in tight windows and, throw under pressure. And they'll be a good football team as the season goes on.
We actually gave our Applebee's the Farmington player of the game to the offensive line, but Josh got to accept it because he was the senior. And that's as it should be, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you bet. Let's go through the game now. The Knights used their powerful ground game to wear down Potosi at Hale Memorial Stadium, and it took it to the waning seconds of the opening period, but the road team actually did strike first with a potent passing attack. Two wides to each side for Blake Coleman. He's got Cross with him in the backfield. Coleman under pressure, looking deep, looking for Brabham at the end zone. He skies high and hauls it in for a touchdown. A 27-yard touchdown pass. Coleman to Brabham, who beat his man one-on-one. And Potosi goes on top 6-0 with 4 seconds remaining in the first quarter. And you talked about Coleman a little bit. You've seen him all 3 years, so you've got to see him develop as a quarterback really as much as anybody, even guys in his own conference. How is he better maybe than he was 2 years ago?
Well, I think there's confidence that comes along with being a senior. He's a big body. He's tall. He's pretty thick, for a quarterback. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but he's pretty stout. And he's able, like I said, put the ball into tight windows and, throw a bad ball, be able to come back from it, and not let it affect him mentally.
Confidence kind of a couple different reasons. He has confidence in his own ability, but he's been with his wideouts so long that if he sees a one-on-one matchup, he is going to feel like a lot of times, hey, I'm going to give my receiver a chance to go make a play too.
Yeah, both that are inside receivers, returning starters, and they've been around quite a while, and they're good football players. And so there's definitely a connection between him and his two senior skill kids.
Damian Cabrera took his first carry 20 yards to tie the game at 6, and Farmington got a 7-yard run from Casey McLean to take a 14-6 lead into the locker room. Potosi started the second half with the ball, and they shifted from a spread to, a lot of names for this. I call it a triple or a capital I. You called it a stack I.
Other people call it a Maryland I.
Coach called it a Maryland I. Have you ever seen or played a team that shifted their offensive philosophy so dramatically during a game like that?
It happens occasionally. Way back, this is over a decade ago, but when I was in the Ozark Conference as a defensive coordinator, every team had one of those big packages. So the majority of the teams might be spread, but every single team, they had their 32 personnel with double tight, 3 back, in some way, shape, or form. So it's not necessarily uncommon that a team, shifts into a concept like that.
So you were ready for it, though. You told me after game, you said we saw him do it before.
They had shown it on film in week 1, and we started in the Bear front. We decided that ultimately we needed to get out of that and just get back to our normal defensive set, and the kids did a good job of making a goal line stand and getting off the field.
Gabe, you've got a lot of responsibility as the safety. Was that almost like preparing for 2 different offenses?
Well, we saw it a little bit in the week 1 with North County. We saw some power eye like that. And then, so like Coach said, we saw it week 1 on film from Potosi. And so we had gone over it a little bit, and we were ready for it.
Does that change your responsibilities when they kind of run different offenses like that, or do you have kind of the same responsibilities?
Well, no, usually when they're in their base ace spread formation, I'm a force defender on the strong side. But whenever we're in our bear defense and they're like in the stack I, I'm an alley player on either side of the field.
Okay, he is smart. You're right. You're telling me about that. Wyatt, as a middle linebacker, now I always think of a middle linebacker as see ball, hit ball.
Yeah.
But but also people tell me that Coach Krupp defense is very complex.
Yeah.
So your job is probably a lot more than just that.
Yeah. Basically, when they go in that I formation, it just goes back to my read keys. It changes from guards and it goes back to that fullback. That's really the only thing I had to adjust that game.
Okay. All right. So a little bit of a difference right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, they go to the stack I, triple I, Maryland I, drove the ball, but you guys were able to hold them out of the end zone. Farmington took advantage with their sophomore fullback, Casey McLean. Rice goes in motion to give us to McLean off tackle left side. McLean's got an alley to run through to the 40. McLean to midfield, and now it's a foot race. McLean to the 40, now to the 30. McLean to the 20, now to the 10. He's to the end zone. Kason McLean goes 85 yards for the score. And Farmington now up by 2 scores, 20-6 at the 3:53 mark of the third quarter. So Kason had some monster numbers. I had him for 292 and 4 scores. But, Coach, I think more often than not, the yards he was gaining, he wasn't even touched for a long time.
Yeah, our offensive line, like we'd said earlier, they did a really good job. And, ultimately there's still things that we can improve upon. We saw that in film today. And, as we clean things up and continue to get more experience and get better, like we'd said in film today, the sky really is the limit for what our kids are able to accomplish.
Your quarterback, Brett Dry, he kind of found a few opportunities against North County and topped 100 yards in game number 1. And this week it was kind of Kason that the holes were opening for. And so he kept getting the ball. And in each case, I'm sure Brett was making mostly the right reads there.
Yeah, that's one thing he's done a really good job of is understanding the offense and understanding what Coach Hain is asking of him from a read standpoint and making sure the ball gets to the right phase of whatever we're doing.
Josh, Potosi's line actually bigger than you guys, but you guys see that pretty frequently. Is that just kind of a number? I mean, does that mean anything to you guys?
No, it's pretty common. We're pretty used to it now. It's just like another week to us, pretty much.
How do you counteract size?
We just get lower than everybody else, and the lower man always wins.
Yeah. So what drills do you do that teach you get low and drive then?
We have like this 100-pound bag that we use. We have like a black line on it, tells us where to hit it. We also do the sled, stuff like that.
So Potosi went back to the spread as Coleman found Zane West in the end zone from 5 yards out to close within a score. Farmington quarterback Brett Dry threw only 5 passes in the game, but he made this one count to Braden Berry as Farmington answered the passing touchdown with this one. Cabrera goes in motion. Dry wants to pass, and he flips it back over to Braden Berry, who gets a block, and he might be gone to the 40, to the 30. Braden Berry, B&B, picking it up and putting it down, and the Farmington Knights go 56 yards on the pass completion to the right side. 11:51 remaining in the fourth. 27-12. The Knights lead. Is that the same play that you went to the end zone against North County in game 1?
It actually is,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
It's the same concept. And, Potosi was a little more pressed with their cornerback than North County was with being the end of the half in the North County game. But ultimately, it comes down to execution. And our quarterback threw a really nice football under pressure. Braden did a great job. He's one of our most explosive athletes. But what really sprung him is Josh's block there on the perimeter.
I was going to go, yeah, and that was exactly what happened in week 1, too, where, the thing was so impeccably blocked. Now, Braden still had to do his job, but he was given the opportunity because it was blocked so well.
Yes. Yep,
kind of like your running game, really. That's been really the theme for you guys all night. So Josh, you're down there battling in the trenches, but on a play like that, you have to use your athleticism to get outside or get a field, don't you?
Yeah, I do. But before I was a lineman, I was a wide receiver, and I got that size still where I'm fast enough to get out there, and that's probably one of my favorite plays.
wide
it.
receiver into a
Yeah.
lineman. Look at you guys go. You're like Jimmy Johnson converting like linebackers into safeties now, right? You're doing it at the high school. Oh, is that a screen? Do you guys call that a screen play?
Yeah, it's a screen concept, yes.
Okay, all right. Potosi scored once more on a Noah Walton run, but in the end it was too much Cason McLean and the Farmington front five. And Farmington just going to work on this Potosi defense. McLean to the 10, to the 5, touchdown. Cason McLean from 15 yards out. His third touchdown run tonight. And Cason McLean has put Farmington on top, 34-18 at the 7:47 mark of the fourth frame. McLean finished with 292 yards on 20 carries, 4 scores. Farmington rushing for 444 with 511 all told. Blake Coleman completed 12 passes for 172 yards and 2 scores for Potosi. Gavin Portell caught 5 balls for 90 yards. And Coach, and I know you have certain goals that you want to meet every week. How did you guys do this week?
We did pretty well. One of the biggest things that we did, I know from a defensive standpoint, was rush defense and yards per carry. Obviously, we faced a very, very good running back in week 1, but we really held Potosi's run game in check. And, we definitely met our goal as far as, yards per carry in the rushing game. It was definitely in that category that we want. And same thing offensively at the same point in time, being able to stay on schedule, getting into those 2nd and 6 or less, and then yards per carry offensively, converting on 3rd and shorts. Those were all, goals that we were able to meet over the course of this past Friday night.
Cason gets the big numbers this week. In week 1, Brett Dry had some of the big offensive numbers, but it's seeming to be pretty apparent that Braden Berry is a guy that you just need to kind of find a way to get him the ball in some space. He's making some things happen, and he shows that even on the return game for you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We got him 7 touches in week 1 when you count the returns, and we had a really nice night returning the football in that North County game. And we were able to find him, I believe, 4 times in the past game. And then we got him a couple catches this Friday night plus, returns. But he's somebody that we definitely want to make sure that we get in the ball into his hands each and every week because, as I said just earlier, he is one of our more explosive players, and he showed that in the first 2 weeks.
Wyatt Skaggs, I saw him come in that second half against North County and run the ball for you several times. Yeah, I think the first thing I noticed is how explosively he hits the hole. He gets there in a hurry.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's no doubt. And Wyatt's a very versatile player, and we ask a lot of him. Defensively, he plays linebacker, but offensively, he's played fullback. He's played outside receiver. He even gets a couple of reps in our heavy package at offensive tackle. So, that versatility is a credit to him, and it's very much appreciated from us.
So all those different positions, how many different position groups do you have to practice with during the week, Wyatt?
I'd say about 3 to 4, kind of depending on the week. It kind of changes every now and then. They got different sets. They got to put me in different places, but it kind of all comes together. You know what I mean? Like at wide receiver, I'll be on the line a lot of the times with our packages and that type of stuff, but it comes together pretty nicely with the way we run our offense.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question about the line, Josh. When you are facing a team or maybe a guy and you feel like, hey, I think if we keep after this, we're going to end up wearing them out. Is there actually a point in the game where you feel like we're going to be able to wear this team out?
Yeah, at some point, they kind of start giving up a little bit. Sometimes they start cutting, just falling, and at that point, that's whenever it's time to kick it up.
What goes first? Do you have to make sure when you get tired to be extra careful to have the proper technique?
No, not really. I feel like at that point, like your adrenaline's running. I know for myself, my adrenaline's running. I'm just going full steam ahead.
Coach, let's shift gears a little bit. So Jackson coming up. They've been, of course, the prohibitive favorite in the SEMO North for a number of years, and they come in. Well, they're probably going to come in pretty angry, but they're in a spot they haven't been in a long time. They're 0-2 now. Now, their schedule's tough. They played some great teams. They went across the river, played Edwardsville, Illinois in week number 1. That goes double overtime. Francis House, the third-ranked team in Class 5, and so they drop a game there. So it's not like they're losing to bad teams, but they're usually the team that's the giant out there and starting the season hot. They lost a lot, certainly from last year, but they do every year. are they running the same systems? Or are they the same program? Are they a little bit different? What's the outlook?
No, they're doing the same things that they always do, you know, and I understand that they're in a position they're not used to. They're typically not in the position that they're in currently. I can't tell you the last time that, you know, they've been in this situation at 0-2, but they're still a very, very, very good football team. They've played two very good football teams themselves. So it's not like they've lost to cupcakes by any means. They've played a good brand of football in those first 2 weeks.
Yeah. Gabe, Jackson, of course, has a very good passing attack. Of course, they have a good running attack as well. But playing them last year, you know, what type of headaches will they deliver and challenges that you have to kind of rise up and meet as a defender?
Oh yeah, they like to throw a lot of formations at all the teams they play. They change it up all the time, see what they can do to mess with the defensive mind. But we watch film, we go over it in practice. We're good. We're expecting everything. Unless there's something they haven't shown, we're expecting nearly everything they throw out.
And Josh, we talk about getting tired. Jackson is a team that likes to play with a lot of tempo. I mean, they really like to go up tempo. Does that wear out a lineman or not? I mean, look at you. You're a fit lineman. You're not like this huge lineman, but I mean, is playing a team that plays with great tempo a little bit different?
Oh yeah. They'll wear you out a little bit more, but I mean, the first couple of drives are usually a little rough, but once you start to get into it, you don't really think about it that much, and it just goes on from there.
Yeah. Why? What would a win against Jackson mean?
Honestly, I wouldn't really know people's reactions. They definitely don't. They definitely don't expect it. But if it does happen, there will be a party in Farmington. That's what's gonna happen.
I mean, that's what you prepare for, right? I mean, you practice to win. You try to put out your best schemes and alignments to try to be successful. And Coach, what are the keys to hanging in with Jackson and maybe pulling that win off?
Well, first off, it's I think you need to go in with your mental state. You can't think of them as the big bad wolf, and you know, I think a lot of times they win the battle beforehand just because of the mindset, you know. But beyond that, you've got to match their physicality. You've got to match them from just a focus standpoint, because as Gabe said, they're going to do a lot of different things. They do exotic things on special teams. They're going to throw, 90 different formations with shifts and motions at you with their offense. So you just got to be able to play with poise, play calmly, and make sure you execute great eye discipline. Can't have any mental mistakes, because that's really what they do, is they take advantage of mental mistakes. And then ultimately it comes down to, and we talked about this week one going in, just the ebb and flow of a football game. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. You can't be that wave rider. You can't get too down. If they're going to make their plays, and you've got to be able to handle that and not let that get you down. You've got to play with an even keel. Yeah. But by the same token, you make a big play,
let it bring you up, right?
Yeah, but at the same point in time, you've still got to play. Yeah. You can't become that chicken with your head cut off now that you're just going crazy.
Guys, thanks so much for joining us on the show. We'll let you guys go ahead and get to your dinner and bring on Kaysen. We'll let Coach stay and talk a little bit about Kaysen as well. But congratulations against Potosi, and good luck against Jackson coming up.
Thank you
for having us. So Kaysen McLean going to join us now, and he is our Applebee's of Farmington Athlete of the Week. And you heard some of those numbers as we talked about them in week number 2 for Kaysen. 292 yards rushing on 20 carries, 4 touchdowns. And so 1 out of every 5 carries was a touchdown for Kaysen this past week. And we'll get his perspective on how week number 2 went. And Coach, you watched him even as a junior high player. And when he came in as a freshman, not a lot of freshmen make the field in your program. But he did as a defensive player, and then in week 1 last year as a freshman, he took over as your fullback. What was special about him coming into high school?
Well, we had known about him. Coach Barron had really good things to say, and we knew Kaysen was going to be a good football player. As I said before, a lot of it was, is he going to be ready? How early is he going to be ready for the Friday nights? And he proved pretty quickly that week 1 that he was ready for it, and he just continued to grow and mature, and was an all-conference player as a freshman. And that, Kaysen's the first freshman that was a true starter in now the 10 years that I've been here. Roper Garrett might be the last freshman that really, was a true starter. And even then it didn't start, week 1, week 2. So
Kaysen, when's the first time you remember playing football? How long have you been playing football?
Probably
Probably back in the Little League, Maffle days. I was always a kid who just wanted to play every sport, and I went out, tried out for the Renegades here in Farmington, and been with it ever since.
So the F back and you've changed a little bit on defense as well. You've moved from a linebacker to a rush end. How's that adjustment going for you?
Well, whatever the team needs, I'm always going to be there, ready for whatever they need me to do. I've always played linebacker, but it's a easy switch. I'm always been a type of guy who likes to blitz. I always like going after that quarterback, and pretty easy, I guess.
Yeah. Tell us how his skill set, Coach, translates to that position.
Well, we've actually had a lot of success taking linebackers and defensive backs and putting their hand in the ground and making them defensive end. We've had a bunch of all-conference kids. We had Rothman Harris started out as a defensive back and wound up being an all-state defensive end for us. And so ultimately, it's where your feet allow you to play. And we've had success with quick, athletic defensive ends. And Kaysen fits that mold. And, the strength is not an issue either because he's very strong, especially for his age and his size. And so that's not an issue when you talk about playing up in the trenches.
We'll tell you the type of athlete Kaysen is. Yes, he has moved from linebacker to defensive end, but you have packages where he goes back and pass coverage.
Correct. Yes. And part of that versatility is one thing we looked at when, deciding for this year, at least to make that move.
Yeah. Kaysen, what are you working on to have success at that position?
At that DN position?
Yeah.
Just focus on getting off blocks. Make sure you get under it. I'm more speed guy because of how my size. So I'm just get under it, get off hands, and be as quick as possible at quarterback.
I know you suffered some cramps in week 1. You were not on the field as much as you wanted to be. You got an opportunity to play the whole game this week. 292 yards rushing on 22 carries, 4 touchdowns. We're going to give you plenty of credit, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about the big guys in front of you because it seemed like a lot of times on Friday night, the holes were huge and you weren't even touched.
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's undoubtedly that my line is absolutely amazing. I'm so glad to have him. Josh, he was just in here. I'm very lucky to have him as a senior. He taught me a lot, and he always opens up the biggest holes for me. Aiden Saunders, he's a new guy in there, same as Luke Berkner. They came in and they made my job very easy for me. And then you got Corey Crawford. He's a sophomore, same as me, and he stepped up. He had an injury last year. He stepped up, and he's a heck of a player for us. Then we have Bryce Cathcart. He helped us last year, and he came back and he wanted to come get some more.
Was there a time Friday night, or did you realize at all, like, kind of what type of night statistically what you were shaping up with?
I knew I was going to have a great night, but I don't really look at that. I'm just there for my team, and whenever they need me to do whatever they need, I'm going to be there for them.
What was your favorite play from Friday night?
Honestly, it was probably when Josh laid that big hit on that screen, and then Braden took it in for the end zone. That was pretty awesome.
That's a humble response because you had an 85-yard run, and you talked about a touchdown that wasn't yours. How much faster are you than last year?
Well, on my ever first play, on the first game, I definitely got chased down, and probably a sad moment for me. But then I think over the season, during summer conditioning, all that, I kind of just focused on getting lighter on my feet, quicker feet, and then just explode right out of the holes.
Yeah. Did you actually though gain weight and muscle and still were able to increase your speed, or did you actually cut weight this year?
I actually put on a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
Last year I was probably around like 165, 170. I'm around 180 now. I put on a little bit of muscle, but that also comes with a little bit more mass. So it does definitely slow you down. But I think I also worked on my explosiveness, and that allowed me to become faster.
On the offensive side of the ball, then, what's kind of your last thought before the snap count? What are you thinking about, and what are you concentrating on right before that play starts?
Well, the whole time through the play, I'm always just thinking, who am I reading off? Who's the read key? Who's my number one? Well, of course, what the play is. I got to make sure I remember that and just don't go the opposite way. That would be bad for the team. But definitely, I'm just reading my guys, make sure I go to the right place when I need to block somebody or when I need to run.
How's Brett running the option this year?
He's an incredible guy. I've always known him. I played Little League with him, and I love him to death. He definitely came in this year. He was a little skittish at first, but he definitely steps up. He's that guy who you could look for it at any time, and he'd be there for you.
All right, sounds great. Anything else you want to say about this guy, Coach?
Well, I know you just asked about speed, earlier, and the point I want to make is, one thing Kaysen does is, he runs as fast in his pads as he does on the track, and ultimately when it comes to football, that's the most important thing that matters. You can be a 4 or 5 guy, but once you put pads on, if you can't translate that speed to the field, it doesn't matter. But ultimately, he takes his speed and he runs just as fast on the field with the ball in his hand in pads as he does if he was on track with Coach Stone.
AKA Drew Felker.
Yeah.
And I think Brett Dry maybe too.
Yeah.
Got that good football speed. Kaysen, congratulations on being our Applebee's of Farmington Athlete of the Week, and all the best coming up against Jackson on Friday.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing them by, Coach.
Yep.
It was great having them on.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jeff.
Eric Krupe joining us, and also Kaysen McLean right there, along with other Farmington Knights. Garrett will have the call of Farmington at Jackson coming up Friday night on AM 800 KREI. And I'll be in studio. We'll take a timeout now and take a peek at some of the other games coming up this week when we come back to Applebee's in Farmington on the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable.
We're back on the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. Thanks again to our hosts, Amy Cousins, and the fine folks at Applebee's here in Farmington. Get in tonight, Tuesday, $5.99 drink of the day is the Mucho Bahama Mama. I'm about to dive in here in just a minute to that. There is great food, terrific service, and every game imaginable on the television for you at Applebee's in Farmington. Football season, not only here in Mass, the high school year, but you've got plenty of college and pro football now coming your way over the course of the weekends to come. So make sure that you stop by Applebee's in Farmington to enjoy that at some point. Speaking of college ball, more than 47,000 fans saw the Missouri football team open up their season under the lights as the Tigers get a 52-24 win over Louisiana Tech Thursday night. Brady Cook, first start for the new Mizzou leader. The sophomore went 18-27 for 195 yards, rushed for 61 yards, as well as Missouri gets a season-opening win, and the Tigers now head to take on an old friend, Kansas State, formerly a Big 12 rival. It's an early kickoff this Saturday, so tune in for pregame at 9 o'clock in the morning, kickoff at 11. You can hear it on AM 800 KREI and AM 1400 KJF. Should be a heck of a ball game coming up this weekend, and a little bit of a proving ground from Mizzou. Kansas State has been very good under Chris Kleeman the last couple of years. We wish Austin Romaine to Hillsborough best of success next year when he heads to Manhattan to play for the Cats and try to continue with the tradition for them. As far as our Week 3 schedule for high school football in our area, I mentioned it a little earlier in the show, a lot of fascinating conference battles as we get league play started this week. In the I-55 conference, you've got Herculaneum hosting Jefferson and Grandview traveling to St. Pius. The Black Cats and the Eagles both 2-0, looking up at the teams that finished at the top of the league a year ago, getting a shot at them early in the season, perhaps some statement games there. In the MAFC Red Division, Festus travels to Windsor and DeSoto visits North County. You've also got in the MAFC White Division, Valley Catholic's first conference game since joining the league is at Fredericktown, while Potosi travels to Central. A couple of suburban conference matchups, at least one suburban conference matchup, I should say. Fox goes to Lindbergh, and then it looks like the rest is non-conference games with Hillsborough visiting Fort Zumwalt West. St. Genevieve looks for the 3-0 start by heading to Orchard Farm, and Crystal City will take on a Bayless team that obviously pushed Grandview to the edge this week. Looking at just fascinating matchups here, like I said, those two at the top in the I-55 intrigue me. Grandview was in this spot a year ago where they were 2-0. They had just beaten Bayless to start conference play, and now they get St. Pius. And that senior veteran team, they lost that game at home 23-12, but they pushed the Lancers for a full, 48 minutes in that one. So this younger version of Grandview going out on the road to Father Dalton Stadium to take on a Pius team that probably is still smarting a little bit from week one. All the turnovers they suffered. Feels like they're much more the team that beat up on DeBerg this week. That's interesting, and that's before you get to Herculaneum, as good as they've been getting to host Jefferson.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. I think those two games are going to be very, very fascinating to watch. That Jefferson-Herculaneum game, that's going to be fun. I mean, Herculaneum, you guys already mentioned it. They hadn't started 3-0 in a while, I think, since the mid-2000s or so.
2004.
Yeah, so, they're going to be fighting for that. Meanwhile, Jefferson, they're going to try to get above 500. Only week 3 coming up here, but these conference matchups that we have coming up here, it's going to be big for Jefferson, too, because the next week, just looking ahead another week, you'll have Jefferson St. Pius, and what a game that was last year. So those are going to be really exciting. And, along with Valley, starting off their new conference play against a stingy Fredericktown team that apparently has already one of the better defenses in the area. So we'll see what they're able to do against the Warriors. But this is going to be a really fun week. Nothing better than conference play.
Nathan, I'm interested in Festus at Windsor because I do think that playing against great teams helps you to become a better program. But I wonder sometimes if playing against great teams, and even if maybe you're a good ball club, but you haven't experienced success, if that takes a toll on you. So I'm kind of interested to see if Festus is going to be able to start fast against Windsor, or if they're going to have to develop some of those successful and winning habits as they go now.
And conversely, if you're the Owls, you look at this opportunity on your home field and say, hey, we got a chance to start conference play better than we have in a while. Maybe we can catch Festus while they're trying to recover from the work they had to put in within the last 2 weeks. Garrett, going back to Jefferson and Herculaneum, key X factor in this one, I think, is that this quarterback matchup, a year ago, it was a guy who made the regional radio dream team and Drew Brees against Jackson Deering, just now learning how to run Blaine Boss's offense. It's kind of flipped to 180. You got Deering, who's in a groove to start the season and seems to have a hold of things, against a first-year starter in Carson Hafner, who only threw 3 passes a week ago. They're trying to protect him and help him get along.
Yeah, I mean, it's really flipped up on its head. We talked about how great Jackson Deering has been throwing the football. I mean, Hafner, again, you said it, 2 completions, 3 attempts, 66 yards, and a touchdown. When are they going to kind of let him loose and see what he can do throwing the football? We don't know what they're going to do over there, but also they got a really good rushing attack over at Jefferson. Hafner can really run that football. And, of course, Sean Ussery as well. I mean, he had 116 yards last week against Cuba. This is a Jefferson team. Of course, they kind of drop off in production. You lose a lot of Breezes, but they still have a really good rushing game. This Herculaneum defense is really good, especially that linebacker core led by Mike Maloney. Some of those guys, they really run around to the football, a lot of speed. So it's really, how does that rushing attack for Jefferson attack Herculaneum? And on the flip side of everything with Herculaneum, what is this secondary for Jefferson going to do? Because you got a guy right there, number 33, Lucas Barr. You got to double coverage him. But as we saw, it's a lot easier said than done because Fredericktown really struggled trying to contain him. You got to figure out something if you're to that Jefferson defense.
Really a fascinating battle for sure, and it's got more stakes to a degree than we've had in that rivalry in a while, which is great. I would wrap by saying this as we get ready for Potosi and Central. We talked a lot about the Knights side of things in that win on Friday night. Chad, the reality remains veteran quarterback in Blake Coleman, receivers that are starting to emerge like Gavin Portell, guys that are getting comfortable in that role like Zane West. They're really high on the freshman Noah Walton. Central's been great to start the season, obviously, but Potosi a year ago, even if they didn't win it, Corey Schweiss came out of that game very complimentary of the Trojans for the fight that they have. You feel like they're making progress, even if last week kind of went haywire down the stretch, that would allow them to have a chance to go out and do something in Park Hills this Friday night.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Potosi is modeled after Central or anything like this, but you kind of think Potosi is almost Central light because Central has this team that has so many different weapons, and they've taken over from other guys that have proven themselves, and so that's the program that's established. But if you watch Potosi, I mean, they have those pieces. They have the skilled wide receivers. They have the quarterback that can make the throws. They have the youthful tailbacks they feel really good about right now. I just don't know if they can do it at as high a level as Central can.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see if they can do more than maybe hang around for a quarter, which they've done in the past, and make that an interesting one there in the MFC White Division. The games that we will have on our airwaves this weekend. On AM 1400 KJF, we've got a battle in the Suburban Conference as the Seckman Jaguars travel to take on the Northwest Lions. Northwest got hot at the end of last year, and because of that, this game was basically what allowed Seckman to win their first conference championship. Cole Rubel, I thought it was fascinating diving into some of the numbers today. He's been solid running the ball. The better of the 2 games was actually probably against Valley Catholic in the opener running it. He's now thrown 5 touchdowns through the first 2 games, so they're slowly but surely starting to make strides as a passing team. Anthony Westervelt has caught 3 of those. He appears to be a matchup problem at receiver, and it's just a question of if they can get him opportunities. Northwest, as I mentioned, starting 0-2 under a new head coach. We'll see maybe their spread offense that they've installed this year under head coach Pete Eberhardt finally starts to click this week. It'll be Seckman at Northwest for Jefferson County Friday Night Football.
We saw how much Cole Rubel improved as a passer from sophomore to his junior year. How much better do you think that he can get throughout the rest of this year as a passer with already 5 passing touchdowns?
I think the goal is for them at least minimum 100 yards per game. I think they'd like him to give them that little element. They probably feel like they can get big numbers just by throwing it to Anthony Westervelt. He is big and rangy and has just enough speed to be a matchup nightmare. So I certainly feel like they want that element there, knowing what lies ahead at the very end of the season when it comes to trying to beat some, not just Class 6 teams, but very good Class 6 teams when we get to the postseason. AM 800 KRA, Garrett, you're on the call for it as Farmington heads to Jackson. We heard Coach Grupe just talk a little bit about it. This is the standard. Yeah, Jackson's 0-2. I think the whole week has probably Farmington been centered around, don't you dare look at that record. Don't you dare put any stake in that. Jackson is the class of the SEMO North and really the class of the state in Missouri high school football.
And, me and Chad were talking before we came onto air that, yes, this is a down year for Jackson, but also they've played some really tough opponents. So how down are they? We don't really know. Of course, looking at it on paper, Farmington can go into Jackson. They can go get that victory, but we don't know exactly all about Jackson just yet. My first time being over at Jackson, seeing this team play. We'll see how it goes, but this is a Farmington team. Again, I'm saying it. I think they have a realistic chance of going into Jackson, picking up a victory, especially if they play their brand of football. Again, a lot easier said than done, but if they keep that Jackson offense on the sideline, this Farmington team can probably do it.
By the way, Gary, you're gonna love it. Friday nights football at Jackson are a fun. They're a scene. It's a great time.
It's an event more than anything else. And kind of going back to what we talked about with Potosi and Central, I think it's true of Farmington and Jackson. They've played good for a half, for a quarter at times with this Jackson team to start games. There just comes a point where they break you and pull away. You got to find a way to get it to the fourth quarter, probably first and foremost, if you're Farmington, as they travel to take on Jackson on AM 800 at KREI Friday night. And then over on J98, we love getting to do this rivalry game, the Battle of Perryville, as St. Vincent travels across town to take on the Perryville Pirates. Griffin, there is the extra element to it of it being a conference game. And so when you look at how fast it started for St. Vincent, when you look at Perryville dropping to 0-2, but moving to a new league after all the competition they faced in the MAFC White Division, this is an opportunity for one team to continue a great start and another to maybe kind of flip the switch and get it really going this year.
Perryville, they absolutely want to do that. I think after talking with Coach Brent Roth over at Perryville after their loss to Oakville in week 1, 48-0, he said, you know what, we really want to build off of this, and we want to try to, erase that away and come and play Windsor tough. You lose 28-7 to Windsor. Nobody only wants to have 7 points through their first 2 games of the season. So they're going to be extra motivated by this game, not only because it is a conference game, but because this is a rivalry game. It's the Battle of Perry County, and you don't often get a rivalry game like this early in the season. You throw the records out the window. Perryville's going to bring everything they got, and I think Tim Schumer knows that over at St. Vincent as well, that they're going to get everything out of Perryville, that the Pirates will throw at them. I'm excited to see the St. Vincent offense run because they have obviously done some really good stuff these first 2 weeks against Marceline and Scott City, putting up 42 and 36 points respectively against those teams. So things are clicking well for the Indians. And right now, this is a really good start for them. Rivalry game as the J98 game of the week. What more can you ask for, Nathan?
It does sound like, I believe, Christian Schaff
Yes.
at quarterback is really settling in. He's getting this offense, and maybe he's not a star like they had a couple years ago with Garrett Doublear, but he's morphing into a guy who's a threat. The flip side of this, I will say, talk about throwing the records out. Perryville has, even though St. Vincent's had the edge the last couple of years, Perryville has not just been, it's not been 30-point games. They've been pretty competitive at times throughout the 4 quarters, competitive for a half. This is one that you have to earn, regardless of who ends up winning.
No, last year was a 30-point game, but that's the only outlier really of this rivalry. 36-0 for St. Vincent last year. But besides that, St. Vincent had a 10-point win. You had Perryville back in 2017. They win by 18 points. One-score game a few years ago.
The 2019 game, 40-21, was a one-score game for a long stretch. I remember being there for that one.
And then, St. Vincent pulls away at the end there. So this is a competitive matchup. Again, Perryville, they don't want to start at 0-3. They feel like, you need a couple of weeks to kind of get things going. I'm going to talk with the coaches throughout the week, about their thoughts on this matchup, how they're going to approach this game. But I'll tell you what, I'm excited for it, and you can only hear it on J98 this Friday.
It is going to be a lot of fun. It's a heck of a scene in terms of the amount of people that come on out. We hope that you'll tune in to at least hear our J98 game of the week as the battle that will define Perry County football this season. St. Vincent and Perryville comes your way on 98.5 FM. Of course, we've got Farmington at Jackson to start conference play on AM 800 KREI. Sacramento and Northwest for Jefferson County Friday Night Football on AM 1400 KJFF. It is going to be a fun week 3. We cannot wait to bring it to you. Our coverage will begin Friday night with the Fleece Equipment pregame show at 6 o'clock on all your regional radio stations, and all the games are streaming online at mymoinfo.com as well. Make sure you stay tuned afterwards. Patsy's Furniture End Zone Show. We'll talk to all the coaches, get you all the week 3 scores and highlights. It's been a lot of fun. Looking forward to getting a chance to get back to actual game action again and sort everything out now that we are starting conference play for some teams, and we're a third of the way through the regular season after the results that come Friday night. We look forward to being back with you at Applebee's in Farmington next week to break everything down and, of course, do a little looking ahead to Week 4. That's going to do it for us tonight from Applebee's in Farmington. Appreciate our hosts, led by Amy Cousins, again, for having us here tonight. For Chad Speaker, Garrett Davenport, and Griffin Weinberg, I'm Nathan Gertz. Thanks so much for tuning into the Kohl's Tractor Equipment Football Roundtable on J98. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening.